Forwards, Chairman of the Tobago Forwards Interim, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, members of the national community, good morning. First of all, permit me to offer apologies on behalf of Attorney at Law Mr. Martin George, who was scheduled to attend but whose pressing commitments intruded on his ability to be here. He extends his regrets. Now, the matter with which the Tobago Forwards wish to treat involves the mismanagement and misappropriation by the Tobago House of Assembly of billions of dollars in public funds. That is billions with a B. This matter has become critical, if only because it is now persistent, predictable, and has assumed the air of the routine. It is almost guaranteed to happen. It has become a critical matter because if we are to receive buy-in from the national population on the issue of internal self-government, it cannot be in a landscape where we as Tobagonians, in a serial manner, cannot account for public funds. Now, as you know, each year the public, the national public, is treated to persistent complaints from the Tobago House of Assembly's Chief Secretary of the inadequacy of the allocation by central government. It appears, however, that these complaints are not only empty, but that they are a decoy from the real issue surrounding how allocations are used. These matters have been brought into stark relief by the most recent Auditor General's report. The most recent Auditor General reports, the 2003 to 2006 reports, and the last of which, that is the 2006 report, reveals a $1 billion discrepancy. Before this matter is discussed, some other matters ought to be clarified. One, unlike government ministries and unique to the THA can transfer into what is called a contingency account all sums that have not been spent. So any part of the THA allocation that has not been spent, rather than being returned to central government, can be deposited into what is known as the contingency account. Transfers into this account by law can only occur after a determination of a surplus. So in other words, you have your budget, you manage to save money, you determine that you have extra money. This extra money or surplus is paid into the contingency account. Funds in the contingency account are to be used only for the purpose of meeting urgent or unforeseen expenditure, and this expenditure must be sanctioned in accordance with a warrant signed by the chairman and issued with the approval of the Finance and General Purposes Committee of the central government. Notwithstanding the provisions of the THA Act that mandated financial rules to be made within 2 months of the Act coming into force in 1986, in fact, the THA has no financial rules under this Act, and the time for so submitting has passed some 19 years ago. And finally, the final preliminary matter I would want you to consider is that the Auditor General's reports into the financial affairs of the Tobago House of Assembly are consistently 8 years behind the curve. So this is the matrix. Now, I say quite unashamedly, I am not an accountant. That is not my training. But I can read. And I have read the Auditor General's reports between 2003 to 2006. The period in which the current administration of the THA was in office, and an alarming trend is apparent. I wish to concentrate on 3 matters or 3 consistent items raised in all these accounts. I wish to assure that there are many more matters, but this is a subject that could keep us here all day, so I will concentrate on 3. And that would be unspent balances, the contingency fund, divisional expenses, and fixed assets. I have treated unspent balances and the contingency fund as one item. Unspent balances and the contingency fund. With regard to the monies unspent by the Tobago House of Assembly and deposited into the contingency fund, in 2003, $2.8 million was transferred into that account even before it was determined that there was a surplus. $12.5 million in 2003 was used to make unauthorized payments. $33.6 million could not be verified because of a failure to present documentation. $1.7 million was withdrawn without authority. $500,000 was issued as a loan to a private company that was experiencing financial difficulties. $1.2 million was withdrawn for no express purpose at all. That was 2003. In 2004, $4.6 million was transferred into the contingency account even before it was determined there was a surplus. $3.3 million was paid out to NEMA and CPEP without any supporting documentation. $0.8 million was loaned to a private company. $89 million was withdrawn without authority. Unauthorized spending included a $5 million investment in a private company and $500,000 to lease planes. $39 million was spent contrary to the THA Act, and of authorized withdrawals, $10 million could not be verified for lack of documentation. That was 2004. In 2005, $8 million was transferred into the contingency account even before it was determined there was a surplus. $2.5 million was paid to CPEP without documentation, and unspent monies claimed to be totaling $30.8 million could not be verified because of a failure to present documentation. Ladies and gentlemen, the contingency fund appears to be the THA slush fund where money is paid in and never seen again. I will say more of that later.